Well, hello! My name is Vid, and today I'm going to show you how to make 2 chunk loaders, including one that only uses an ender pearl. Now I'm going to talk more about what a chunk loader is and what chunks are and why you need one of these things, but first I'm going to show you what you came here to see. I'm going to build one. Everything you're going to need is in this chest right here. You're going to need 1 dispenser. Now make sure it is a dispenser and not a dropper, plus a hopper, a lever, a redstone torch, 1 building block, but I'd recommend having a few more building blocks just to make life easier for yourself. 1 slab, 2 detector rails. Actually, that second rail can be anything. If you have an extra detector rail, use it. If not, use any other kind of second rail. You'll need a hopper minecart plus 2 regular minecarts, and then enough obsidian to make a portal plus a flint and steel. We're going to start by placing the dispenser facing straight up. Then behind the dispenser, we're going to shift click a hopper so it's pointing into the dispenser, just like that. Next, we're going to place down 2 building blocks right here. 1, 2. And we can actually break the bottom one out because we don't need it at all, so that's gone. Next, we're going to place a piece of obsidian right on top of that hopper there, and then we're going to make a full nether portal right out of those blocks. Your nether portal frame should now look something like this. Now we're going to use that redstone torch, and we're going to shift place it against the back of the dispenser here. Then we're going to place the lever against the side of this dispenser right there. And now we're going to jump up on top of this dispenser. We're going to face this direction, and we're going to place a detector rail right there, and then another detector rail right up there. We actually don't need this top detector rail, so we can break it. The only reason we put it there at all is so that this rail here would end up on an angle. And now we can shift and place a slab right on top of that rail, and then hop down. This is what you should have so far. Now we just want to take our hopper minecart and shift click it right up there so that it ends up inside this obsidian. Now we're going to light the portal, just something like that. And now we want to take our other 2 minecarts and we're going to place them, one right there, which should push the other one through. And then before we do anything else, we should really jump through the portal and just see where that ended up. So in the nether, you should see the minecart straddling right there. We're just going to light this spot right here, and right around the other side, we're going to light this spot as well. And the minecart should, of course, be destroyed in the fire, and then we'll go back through the nether. Now, hopefully when you get back, you'll see that one of those minecarts has actually ended up in this dispenser right here. That's perfect. That's exactly where we want it to be. I added this extra block just so I could jump through the portal here. But now we're going to take our final minecart, we're going to place it here on this rail, and the magic should start. You should see now that we have a minecart being dispensed onto the rail. It goes through and into the nether and immediately gets sucked back out again, and the whole process continues. Now this chunk loader is fully working. If you want to turn it off, you can flip this switch to turn it off. And when you're ready to come back and turn it on, you can turn it on. This chunk loader is actually robust enough to survive server restarts and world reloads and all kinds of things. It's actually a really great chunk loader. Before I tell you the whys of why you want a chunk loader, hey, hit that like button if you thought it was great that I showed you immediately how to build this thing. Okay, let's get into the theory. Minecraft, as you know, is made up of blocks, but those blocks are actually collected into groups of 16 by 16 into something called a chunk. And if you want to see what those chunks actually look like, hold down F3 and tap G on your keyboard. That'll show you the chunk borders. So you can see that every 16 blocks, there's another chunk. And these things are all stacked side by side. Chunks go from all the way at the bottom of the world, minus 64, all the way to the top of the world at 320, or beyond if you have some special mods that extend the size of the chunks. When a chunk loader is in operation, it is going to load the chunk that it is in. So I've marked that out with this green set of wool right here. This is a 16 by 16 block. It is going to do everything the same as if you were standing here. Well, almost everything. There are some exceptions. I'll get to that in a bit. But it's also going to process another set of chunks, in fact, a whole ring around that set. So an additional 8 chunks all the way around. These are going to be called entity processing chunks. So all of this area inside this blue line of wool right here, all of this is going to be loaded by your chunk loader. There is actually an additional set of chunks that are partially loaded outside this blue, but inside this orange. Now, not everything gets processed out here, but this is useful for some things. Like, for example, if you send redstone outside of this area, it will still be processed. Just minecarts and entities will not be processed. So redstone signal, yes. Entities, no. Outside this orange line, nothing will be processed. So this would represent unloaded chunks. So the chunk loader is basically doing nothing for anything outside of the orange area. So why would you want to add a chunk loader to your base and keep the chunks loaded? Well, that's it exactly. If you want to leave your base area and go explore the world, but you still want certain things to happen at your base, a chunk loader is for you. The types of things that could be processed by a chunk loader, particularly inside of this blue area here, are farms dealing with mob AI and entities. So for example, iron farms, chicken farms, wither-powered blast chambers, even piglin bartering. Plus farms dealing with block and inventory updates, such as automated storage systems, sand and gravity block duplicators, and super smelters. Plus, as I already mentioned, redstone contraptions. I love keeping redstone contraptions chunk loaded. What about some things that will not work properly with a chunk loader? Well, anything that relies on what's called random ticks in Minecraft simply won't work because they require a player to be present. That would include things like crops growing, farmland hydrating or updating, leaves decaying, mushrooms or vines spreading, fire spreading, ice and snow melting, mycelium or grass spreading, mud converting to clay, turtle eggs cracking or hatching, amethyst growing, copper blocks converting, or cauldrons filling with lava, or any liquid for that matter, plus redstone ore. Even though redstone contraptions work, redstone ore, if you stand on it, will output a signal, but redstone ore turning off will not happen in loaded chunks unless there's a player handy to keep the random ticks going. One more important thing, mob spawning will not work with a chunk loader. Mob spawning is entirely determined by where the player is. That is, mobs need to spawn 24 blocks away from a player, but less than 128 blocks away from a player. If there's no player in the area, mobs will actually despawn, so the chunk loader won't do you any good for a mob farm. By the way, did you know that this Nether portal style of chunk loader was actually invented by Ray's Works? Yeah, about 8 years ago. Pretty cool. This particular design was created by a guy named Dark. You can check out links to both of them in the description down below. Now, I know people are going to hate on me if I don't show you the Ender Pearl version of this chunk loader. All you're going to need is 1 piece of soul sand, 1 water bucket, and 5 kelp, or you could just use 5 water buckets instead, plus 1 Ender Pearl. To build this one, you're just going to want to dig down 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And on that 6th block, you're going to jump and place your soul sand down. Now, you're going to take your water bucket and place it on the absolute highest block up there. Once the water flows down, you're going to place all of your kelp down, then sail all the way back to the bottom and just break all that kelp. That's going to turn it all into a water stream. Now you're going to take your ender pearl, you're going to shift click over to the side here, and you're going to throw that right down in there, and it's going to bounce up. You're probably asking yourself, why did we dig down 6 blocks instead of 7 or 5? Well, 6 is the exact number so that your ender pearl doesn't hit the ground and teleport you back up again. So what's the difference between these two? Do they load the same amount of chunks? Yes, they load exactly the same amount of chunks. You can see I built this Ender Pearl chunk loader inside this green area. It's going to load all of this area. It's going to load all the way out to the blue. And guess what? It's going to do that redstone processing out here as well, but not entity processing. Exactly the same as the regular chunk loader. So why would you bother building the big chunk loader here if the little chunk loader does exactly the same thing? Well, there are some limitations to using the Ender Pearl chunk loader. For example, it will only keep chunks loaded while you are online. For example, let's say you're playing on a server and you log in, all of your chunks stay loaded, everything's great. Even if you leave dimensions, you go to the end, you come back, your base is still loaded. The whole time you were away from your base but on the server, your base stays loaded with the chunk loader. But the second you log off, that Ender Pearl disappears and doesn't come back until you log back in again. So the whole time you are offline, no chunks are loaded, no entities are processed to your base, nothing like that. Plus, if you die, the Ender Pearl goes away and then you'd have to come back and replace it again. So not as robust. If you are playing in a single player world where when you log off, your world closes down, then this one is going to be just fine for you because honestly, there is no need to build this crazy big chunk loader to load chunks when you're offline because obviously in a single player world, when you're offline, your whole game is shut down and so nothing's loaded anyway. So this one, like I said, great for single player. Multiplayer, this is what you want to do. And the reason is quite simple. You want to have this chunk loader running whether you were on the server or not. That means things like an iron farm will keep running even if you are not on the server. Your super smelter will keep running even if you're not on the server. Even your fully automated storage system will keep running when you're not on the server. Just a couple quick follow-up notes in case you were wondering. On the Nether side of the portal, yes, in fact, the exact same number of chunks are loaded. So that center chunk in the middle that I've here outlined in the green blocks, all the way out to the blue blocks, all entity processed exactly the same way, and then out to the orange blocks in the redstone processing, but non-entity processing. Yes, loaded exactly the same way as in the overworld. In the end dimension, obviously nether portals will not work, but the chunk loader with the ender pearl will work just fine. So you can use this one to chunk load exactly the same way as you would with the other chunk loaders in the end. And of course, if you are a server administrator or if you're playing in a single player world and you have cheats or commands enabled, you can always use the force load command. You can use that to load a single chunk, or you can load a collection of chunks by specifying a rectangular boundary. Hopefully, that'll help you out a lot. These types of chunk loaders work in all modern versions of Minecraft, and make sure you check the description down below. I'll make sure to make notes if any future versions of Minecraft break these chunk loaders, or if any better designs come out. I'll keep you posted. Hey, if you like this video, do me a favor, click that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of my fantastic tutorials. My name is VidMC, and I will see you in the next episode.